Thank y'all for joining me. Eugene, I want to start with you. The New York Times writes, quote, "The fighting in Ukraine has disrupted global oil markets, sending gas prices and inflation in the United States soaring, and pushed aside longer-term issues that Biden had long hoped would become the centerpiece of his legacy." How is the White House working to balance the U.S. response to the war with Biden's domestic agenda here at home?
Yeah, it's a struggle, right? Because they put together this coalition to help Ukraine. So they have to concentrate on that. The president has to continue to talk about that. The administration has to continue to work on that. But this is an administration that had high hopes for their domestic agenda, right? You talk about their Build Back Better agenda, and I'm not sure what it's called anymore, but their social spending agenda, the kinds of things they wanted to do here. And so there is a little bit of they would say they're chewing gum and walking at the same time, but the focus on it is obviously personally or professionally frontwards. What people can see is Ukraine. And you have Americans hurting, and they know that. And so you're going to see, I'm told by a White House official today, as President Biden goes out more talking about this, that he is going to, one, show people in their eyes that he's competent and he has his hands at the wheel. He feels their pain. And more importantly, he's going to push for things to be passed that will help them, right? Because voters are at this point thinking, what have you done for me lately? It's great that you did the ARP and COVID funds. It's great that there was an infrastructure bill, but what are you going to do next? And that's what the administration has to focus on.
Well, Mariana, let's talk about what used to be called Build Back Better for a second. I mean, what elements of Biden's Build Back Better agenda have the best shot at getting through the Senate this summer or fall?
Yeah, it's definitely not called Build Back Better simply because it's kind of become the boogeyman term for many Democrats that reflects that intra-party fight that we saw all last year. And really, you ask, what are the policies? Well, it comes down to Senator Joe Manchin, because he was the one who, of course, said, I can't support the bill that passed through the House that both moderates and progressives, through a lot of hard work and a lot of family infighting, finally were able to fund a number of proposals, a number of promises that Democrats for years had been saying, this is what we're going to deliver. These are our priorities for our party, for our voters, and for Americans at large. So what Manchin has said he would support are things like prescription drugs. That's something that affects even conservative districts, something that has bipartisan support on the Hill, even though we haven't seen much action on that front. He's also called and supported a number of climate reform provisions. Something else is also tax breaks for a number of Americans, especially not the wealthy. He actually goes further than Senator Kyrsten Sinema on that front, because he actually wants to repeal the 2017 Trump tax cuts, while she has been a little bit more cautious on that front. So those are many things where Democrats can agree with, and they really much understand, doesn't matter if you're a moderate, if you're a progressive, that you have to get something done, and it's going to be much more narrow in scope.
Well, let's drill down on one issue in particular. The White House keeps kicking student loan forgiveness down the road with the pause on payments set to expire just 2 months before the midterms. Where do things stand with canceling student loan debt, Mariana?
Yeah, this has been a very tricky issue. When I covered Biden when he was running for president, it was definitely something that came up a lot. And he even said, I don't know if I can just cancel student debt through an executive order. He's always been pretty wary about when to use executive orders. But it is definitely an issue that, especially for progressives, they're pushing him to just cancel it at some point, or at least lessen the amount that is due back. It is pretty significant that he has actually listened to a number of Democrats who have said you need to at least extend this pause. What he does after the midterms will be interesting. I'm sure it'll depend on the state of the economy as well.
And Eugene, with Biden focused on Ukraine, the White House has deployed Vice President Harris to rural areas of the Deep South. Talk to us about that strategy and what message the Vice President is sending with these visits.
Yeah, because it's about her focusing on all of the things that the administration has her doing, right? Going to Poland and Romania, making calls for the Supreme Court justice confirmation hearings. But at the same time, and this is coming from her, is what her aides tell me, is that she is constantly trying to find ways to make more Americans come to the table, right? And so instead of just going to Philly, which she also did, or going to Columbus, Ohio, she also has gone to Greenville, Mississippi. She has also gone to Sunset, Louisiana, which I bet a lot of viewers had never heard of, pushing some of the things that the administration has worked on, talking about rural broadband, talking about the lead in pipes around this country. And so what they are telling us, the strategy that has continued, it started in the White House, right? Like before COVID, during COVID, excuse me, when she would have people come to the office, these constituencies that folks hadn't really spoken to in a long time. And now she's able to take that voice to the people and do that. And I think one of the interesting things is, Cedric Richmond, a senior advisor to the president, he said, we know we're not going to win Louisiana or win Mississippi per se, but this is about letting more Americans know that, hey, you're a part of this conversation, and they want to diversify the folks that they're talking about and talking to over and over throughout her time as vice president.
All right, Mariana, in about the minute and a half that we have left, a new Quinnipiac University poll found that just 1 in 4 Hispanic voters approves of the job that President Biden is doing. What could these numbers mean for Democrats in the 2022 midterms?
Well, it can mean a lot in the midterms and also in the long run. Democrats, I should say, Hispanic voters have largely voted with Democrats, and it still is a reliable base for the party. But I know you have heard this. I have heard this for a while, too, from strategists who have been talking to Democrats for a long time about how to solidify the base. And it is just showing up where they are and talking about the issues that matter most to them. A lot of assumption is that immigration is the issue that matters to your community, to my community. It actually is just what everyone else is feeling, and that is the economy. So they're very much feeling the pinch in their own pockets, in their own homes, and like everyone else wants to know what Biden is doing. But Democrats, it has long been a criticism that they need to do a lot more, and Republicans have been making inroads, just showing up in certain parts of Florida and Texas, as I know and while they're not making significant gains yet, they're really looking at how they can win over Hispanic voters to solidify and be part of the Republican Party.